Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. And before we get into the video, I just want to say, man, I am so hyped. As of the recording of this video, it is 15 days until Classic launches, and couldn't be more excited. I've got meals prepped. I've been practicing leveling every single day, different routes, practicing with my guild. I am so excited. Let me know how excited you guys are. Let me know what you're doing to prepare for Classic launch. I want to know what you guys are doing to commit to the launch of this game, and we're all going to have so much fun together. I'm so excited. Anyways, this video is going to be about unique PvP items that you can get around the world, in dungeons, and for engineering that have unique effects that can really turn the tide of the battle and really win you a fight. Let's get into the video. Let's start off by talking about the PvP items that players are going to be able to get within raids. The first item we're going to talk about is probably one of the most notorious PvP weapons in the game, and that is Bone Reaver's Edge. This weapon is incredibly sought after by any warrior deciding to push for high ranks in PvP. Bone Reaver's Edge gives the wielder such an incredible amount of armor penetration that it instantly makes it incredibly difficult for an opposing warrior to fight him one-on-one if the warrior with Bone Reaver's Edge gets procs. In fact, many pre-made PvP groups will specifically be looking for warriors with this weapon early on into the game. Earthshaker is another two-handed PvP weapon. Unlike Bone Reaver's Edge that gives you increased damage to a specific target, Earthshaker is lower on the damage side but focuses more on crowd control. Earthshaker has a chance to knock down all enemies around you for 3 seconds, which means it's basically a stun for everyone that's stacked up around you. This weapon is not so good in single target scenarios, but in mass scale world PvP where there are lots and lots of enemies, you can stun up to 10, 15, unlimited amount of enemies as long as they're stacked up, allowing you to turn the tide of the battle single-handedly if you get a lucky proc with this weapon. Another notorious weapon, and possibly one of the best looking weapons in Classic WoW, is Dark Edge of Insanity. Not only does this weapon just look simply incredible, but it's great in PvP too. It has good weapon damage, plenty of raw stats, but most importantly, has a great unique proc to it. The disorienting effect that this weapon proc can do not only makes the opponent completely lose control of their character, but actually cannot be broken by damage like most disorienting effects like Blind and Sap. This means that the person wielding Dark Edge of Insanity can keep bashing away at their opponent while their opponent can't even fight back. Aegis of Preservation, being for priests only, is not an item that fits absolutely every PvP situation. Although, the situations it does fit into makes this item very, very good. Typically, a trinket like this is used when a priest is fighting an opponent that attacks very quickly, such as a hunter and his pet, or a dual-wield character like a rogue. Now, 35 healing does not seem that significant, but it gains a ton of value when your opponent is hitting you multiple times a second. It's also important to note that abilities don't actually trigger this trinket, only white hit damage. Lastly, this item also gives the user 500 armor, which is nothing to just brush off. Life-Giving Gem, the next trinket we're going to talk about, is a trinket only for warriors, increasing their survivability. Typically, this sort of trinket is used in duels, when a warrior doesn't really have a pocket healer. This is still a great all-around trinket though, since it not only increases your health pool, but also heals you for a huge amount. Petrified Scarab is not a trinket that's widely used in just any PvP situation. However, it's an incredible trinket to use in specific duels against casters, negating a massive amount of their damage output. Another important thing to note about this trinket is that, unlike most trinkets that last for 15 to 20 seconds, this one lasts for a whole minute, which under most circumstances is the whole duration of the duel or most of the duration of a duel. Shard of the Fallen Star is probably one of the coolest trinkets, especially for its animation. This trinket is used in situations where you want to burst down a single target really quickly. Now, this item, back in the day, used to be able to scale with bonus spell power, making it absolutely nuts. However, it doesn't scale with spell power any longer, but is still pretty useful. This item should be used from a range, and can crit over 700 damage.
NANI?!
The first item we're going to talk about is a trinket called Gnomish Cloaking Device, which has a similar effect to just using an invisibility potion. This allows you to sneak by fights you don't necessarily want to take, or allowing you to get the jump on an enemy. The next engineering item is probably one of the most important engineering items in Classic WoW, not only for PvP, but PvE as well. But in PvP, it's one of the most important items for large-scale world PvP. This item, while used in unison with teammates, is capable of wiping out masses of enemies. This is one of the biggest reasons to not stack up too much in large PvP scenarios. Next up is another trinket called Gnomish Netomatic Projector. Like other CC items, this is useful because it is always beneficial to be able to control your enemy's movement. In some matchups, locking down your opponent can heavily favor you in battle, if not completely ensure the victory. Goblin and Gnomish Rocket Boots, along with any other movement speed item, is great in Warsong Gulch for flag running. But aside from flag running, these boots can be used by any class to kite your opponent and avoid taking any unnecessary damage. Okay, before we talk about this next item, let me just say this is absolutely one of the most stylish looking helmets in all of Classic WoW and probably just the game. Goblin Rocket Helm can make even a female dwarf look appealing. No, but in all seriousness, this helmet is amazing for PvP. It can immediately take an opponent out of a teamfight in an instant. This item is a must-have for any hardcore PvP player. For Horde, there's a helmet with a similar effect that does not require engineering called Horned Viking Helmet. Another engineering trinket is World Enlarger. Now, this trinket doesn't inherently give you any damage, it doesn't really give you any health, or anything of that nature. All it does is make you smaller. However, this minimizing effect stacks with the shrinking effect from Noggin Fogger Elixir, making the player incredibly small. Being this small sometimes allows you to sneakily capture a base, capture a flag, or hide, making it difficult for the enemy to spot you or kill you. One of the main items that you're going to be using in PvP from engineering are grenades. Grenades are an item that can be thrown from a distance after a short delay, damaging and stunning anyone hit. This can be great in a 1v1 scenario or in group battles, giving the player yet another tool to interrupt someone while getting a bit of extra damage in. Players can really get creative and even combo together grenades into some different ability chains. Yet another trinket you get from engineering is Major Recombobulator, which can dispel any polymorph type effects and heal the player for a little bit. This is an item that is really good when fighting an enemy team that is heavy on mages. Now, polymorph does heal the target that is polymorphed, which is good, but typically it's better to break the polymorph so that player can use their abilities and be more impactful for their team. Before we get into the next item, it's important for us to point out the difference between grenades and bombs. Typically, grenades are used more in PvP because they have a faster cast time and they can be cast while moving, which is absolutely incredible. Bombs, on the other hand, force the player to remain stationary to cast them and have a longer cast time. For this reason, bombs are typically not used as much as grenades. The one exception to this is Arcane Bomb. Arcane Bomb is one of the most expensive explosives an engineer can craft, but also one of the most deadly. In mass scale world PvP, if you land this bomb on a group of casters, especially healers, the fight is almost over immediately. The damage that this bomb does is nothing to laugh at, but its true power comes from its silencing effect. 5 seconds is a huge amount of time to be completely taken out of a fight. And not only does it silence the person, but it drains their mana as well. Discombobulator Ray is more of a niche item from engineering. It doesn't really damage, nor does it stun. However, it's great for ganking randomly around the world, because what it does do is immediately make a person dismount, basically slowing them and allowing you to catch up to them to gank them. The last 3 engineering items, Gyro Freeze Ice Reflector, Hyper Radiant Flame Reflector, Ultra Flash Shadow Reflector, are probably one of the most well-known engineering items in Classic WoW. All of these trinkets are based off of prediction. However, if you can predict well, you can completely end a one-on-one fight. These trinkets reflect any spell of the elemental type. Any spell reflected with these items are reflected with full effects. This means that if the enemy uses damage cooldowns to burst you, it will turn on them. If a warlock fears you, he'll get feared. You get the point. But all of these reflectors are not cheap. However, they are essential to any PvPer's arsenal. Last but not least, we're going to talk about unique PvP items that you can get in the open world. The first of these being probably one of the most notorious, Title Charm, which drops off of a low-level rare elite named Prince Nazjac. This trinket can be very difficult to obtain though, as it drops off a low-level creature that has a really long respawn time. Additionally, it has a large spawn window, so even if it is capable of spawning, you're going to have to sit there for quite a while to see if it actually will spawn, in addition to any competition of players that also want the trinket. Even if you do get to see him spawn, and you tag him, and you kill him, Title Charm is not 100% drop chance. This means that you're going to have to put a lot of effort and time into getting this trinket, but if you do get it, it is used in almost any PvP scenario there is. Skull of Impending Doom is an offhand item that deals damage to the user over time and also gives him movement speed. However, movement speed isn't the main use of this item in PvP. The fact that it deals damage to the user is also incredibly useful. Disorienting type effects such as Sap or Blind can be completely broken by using this item, allowing you to unexpectedly break a rogue's chain of CC and allowing you to turn the fight on him. Furbolg Medicine Pouch is another offhand item. This offhand is obtained by Gorn One Eye once a player has reached Honored with Timbermaw. This item regenerates 1,000 health over the span of 10 seconds. This means that you gain 100 health every second. This can turn the tide of any one-on-one fight. Whipper Root Tuber is another great PvP item that a PvPer should keep in their bags at all times. These items can be collected around Fellwood and are wonderful to have because they don't share cooldown with potions, which means you can use this item in conjunction with a health potion at the same time to gain a large spike of health and can turn the tide of a battle very easily. Magic Dust is an item that can drop off of low-level mobs named Dust Devils in Westfall. Although this item is low level, you should not underestimate its usefulness. Even at level 60, the item's effect remains the same. This item allows you to apply a sap type effect to the target, even from a short range. Really Sticky Glue is another really low level item. Although, unlike Magic Dust, Really Sticky Glue cannot be traded, it is bind on pickup. Additionally, this item can only be obtained by completing a low level quest called a Solvent Spirit. What this means is, once you obtain the Really Sticky Glue for your character, you will not be able to collect any more for the duration of your character's lifetime. Barov Peasant Collar is another wonderful trinket to have for PvP for both offensive and defensive potential. When a player activates this item, 3 aggressive high-level enemies will attack your foe. Some aggressive ways to use this item are to use it against a spellcaster to give him constant pushback on his spells while he's casting, in addition to the bonus damage that the mobs do. Or you could also use this to confuse your enemy by having multiple people run at him at the same time. On the other hand, this trinket can be used defensively in Arathi Basin, for example. If you are defending a flag and get sapped or stunned, you can rely on the mobs from this trinket to hit the enemy and keep them from capturing the flag. There are several other items similar to this one though, that you can obtain in dungeons or raids that summon one companion instead, such as Book of the Dead or Ancient Cornerstone Grimoire. 6 Demon Bag is a world BOE drop, dropping from high-level dungeons and raids. This item is useful, however, it's not very dependable because every time it's activated, it chooses a random effect out of a table of 6 different effects. These being Frostbolt, dealing around 200 damage and applying a slow, Fire Blast, that deals around 200 fire damage, Chain Lightning, which deals about 180 damage, Polymorph, Whirlwind, or it summons a Warlock Demon. I wouldn't recommend this trinket for all PvP situations since it has quite a bit of variability to it, but it is very fun to play around with. Another quest item that can be useful in PvP is the loofah. This can be obtained through a funny quest found in Searing Gorge. I recommend paying attention to the quest that gives you this item if you want a quick laugh. Loofah can be used to take off any annoying bleed effects, but beware, this trinket has limited uses and is not BOE, meaning when you're out of the loofah, it's gone for good. However, using it can be amazing. In a rogue vs rogue one-on-one, allowing yourself to be able to take a bleed effect off can sometimes just flat out win you the duel. Rammstein's lightning bolts from Rammstein and Strat Undead is an AoE damaging item. This item can be incredibly useful in mass scale world PvP. If you have a raid with this item hitting a stacked clump of enemies, it can be completely devastating. Especially since you can pair this item and use it alongside a Goblin Sapper Charge at the same time. Powerful Anti-Venom, Restorative Potion, and Jungle Remedy are all very useful items for PvP. These items can cleanse you of any rogue poison, primarily crippling poison or mind numbing, and also can get rid of any pesky Viper Stings if you're a mana user. The stealth detection items such as Cat's Eye Elixir and Cat's Eye Ultra Goggles don't have a ton of uses, but do come in handy in a rogue 1v1. The ability to potentially land a sap or opener of any kind on the enemy before he can on you can be the deciding factor in who wins the battle. It is important to note though, that these stealth detecting effects do not stack, and the most powerful one of them is the Cat's Eye Ultra Goggles. So if you're going to use a stealth detecting type effect, you want to use this one. Lincoln's Boomerang is a quest item from a long quest chain that takes you from Winterspring to Unguro and all around the world. This item is a trinket that has two very interesting proc chances. It can either proc for a disarming effect, which can be completely devastating against a warrior or rogue, or it can knock down the person, which is essentially a stun. This trinket can be very useful early on into the game, however, is easily replaced due to its low proc chance and unreliability. Arena Grandmaster is a trinket that many people already know about. You can obtain this trinket by collecting the Arena Master tokens in Gurubashi Arena, and after you collected 12 of them, you can turn them into the NPC there to get Arena Grandmaster. Absorbing damage in PvP is always useful, especially when it is as much damage as this trinket does. The class that hates this the most though is warriors. When you use this against a warrior, warriors won't be able to generate any rage until they break the absorb bubble. Any damage that a player absorbs will not generate rage for warriors. Silent Fang is a main hand weapon that has pretty low damage. Although it has low damage, its effect can completely destroy a character. It gives the player a chance to silence their target for 5 seconds. So when using this weapon against a caster matchup in a 1v1, you can completely shut him down from fighting you for a whole 5 seconds when this procs. Now to talk about my favorite PvP weapon that has an awesome proc. The proc on this weapon is absolutely ridiculous. And that weapon is Hand of Edward the Odd. This weapon is oftentimes wielded by shamans, since their personal Wind Fury enchantment gives them 2 extra auto attack swings, but can be used by several classes. When this weapon procs, you can release a deadly max rank Chain Lightning, a max rank Chain Heal, or whatever you'd like. It makes your next spell cast instant. Hand of Edward the Odd is incredibly fun and satisfying to play with. One of the most used potions that you're going to have to use in PvP is Free Action Potion. Free Action Potion allows the player to be completely immune to stuns or any movement impairing effects for a full 30 seconds, which is absolutely crazy in PvP. Warriors use these potions all the time against mages, so mages can't lock them down, and other classes as well. Okay, so I need to go over one more really important thing with you guys before this video ends, and that is the importance of gold in Classic WoW. Unlike other expansions, in Classic WoW, players are going to use a ton of gold. There's multiple items that you're going to have to craft that are best in slot over several different phases. Not only that, but using flasks is extremely costly. In Classic WoW, you use tons of consumables every single raid, and it's really hard to keep up with that amount of income that you need to farm every single week. Well, I've got a treat for you guys. So, if you want to support my channel, but not only support me, but support yourselves as well, I'm offering an exclusive item on my Patreon right now. I just made a whole spreadsheet of an investment list that I personally follow and have followed on all of my private servers that I've played on, and by the time Phase 4, Phase 5 content comes out, I have so much money that I never have to farm for the rest of the game. Even in earlier phases, such as Phase 3, I'll have so much money that I never have to farm for consumables anytime, ever, and I can still use as much as I want, whenever I want. I'm offering this spreadsheet that goes into detail exactly what items you want to buy, why you want to buy them, when you want to sell them, how long you want to hold on to these items, when they're going to spike, what phase you want to sell them on. Absolutely everything you're going to need, and even the steps that I follow on my own personal character to get rich in Classic WoW. Items that you're going to want to invest in early on into the game in Phase 1, so that you can have the leisurely life and never have to farm again in the later phases and just sit back, relax, while all your other guildies and all your other friends are farming their asses off week after week after week while you're sitting there on stacks of gold. Trust me guys, this isn't some gimmicky guide or anything like that. This will legitimately make you rich. If you put in the time and effort into Phase 1 in particular, you will get rich off this spreadsheet. Gold. Check out my Patreon if you're interested in this and interested in helping out the channel. I'll leave a link in the description down below so that if you're interested in this, you can have it too. However, I'm only going to be offering this spreadsheet to people until Classic WoW launches. So if you do decide to become a Patreon for this spreadsheet, send me a message after you've become a Patreon with your email. After you become a Patreon, you have the option of sending the person a message. You can send me a message after you've become a Patreon with your email address, and I will send you the link within the same day so that you will be able to see this spreadsheet and you'll be set up and ready to go in Classic to make tons and tons of money.